The tough decisions ahead for the Texans now that Nico Collins is locked up, and perhaps the toughest decision of all. Let's go inside the locker room.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey. Locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time. Can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top two and we not too plugged in daily.
One decision's been made. What are the future decisions for the Houston Texans now that Nico Collins is locked up? It is the locker room number one source for Texans digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 Central, Sports Radio 6 in the Odyssey app, which, by the way, guy's going to be on the field tomorrow, and you will hear from some members of the Texans. I think we might hear from Bobby Slowick tomorrow. There's going to be availability, so fire up the YouTube, fire up the Odyssey app, and you can check me out tomorrow, 10 Central, talking about the Texans. I want to jump right into this. So the Nico Collins decision has been made, and regardless of where you felt, I think it's not like a monumentally bad move. And in the window that you have to function in with CJ Stroud's rookie deal, there's going to be much tougher decisions to make once CJ is one of the higher paid quarterbacks in the NFL. I just want to go through the 5 decisions that the Texans are going to have to make. Some of them impact the salary cap situation more than others. Hell, some have to do with the roster, and perhaps cutting your losses if necessary. If you have a question, get it in the chat. I tend to get to those. This tends to be an interactive stream if you haven't been here before. And if you haven't, welcome. If you have, welcome back. Decision number 1 is going to be the third year guys at training camp. There's hasn't really been a situation where Nick Caserio has had to cut bait on his own draft picks. And I would say Nick Caserio has been challenged in a 3-year span more than perhaps any general manager has been challenged. And gone on a roller coaster up and down in a 3-year stretch. It's actually kind of hard to believe that that's happened. And in positions like the one that Nick Caserio holds, there's often human nature that comes into effect. And there's a lot of times you have to make really, really tough decisions that maybe sometimes you lean towards being emotional, and you tend to have certain biases or favorites, and sometimes you're just a cutthroat gangster and you really don't give a damn. Nick Caserio, for the first time perhaps in his entire tenure, there's the possibility of him having to cut one of his earliest draft picks, and I'm looking at the third year guys, and I'm talking about Kenyon Green, I'm talking about John Mechie, and probably not Dameon Pierce, but they're going to have to decide how much they trust him. And if Kenyon Green goes into training camp and he looks like he did the last 2, I think there's a chance that Nick Caserio might have to say goodbye to a first-round pick. Would it surprise me if Kenyon Green establishes himself as one of the guys that's worth keeping around? Maybe not, but would it shock me if Nick Caserio had to make that decision? Probably not. John Mechie, you've seen them make trades in the offseason to improve the wide receiver core. The top 3 is pretty clear. You can actually make a case that the top 5 is pretty clear based on what you saw with Noah Brown last year and based on what you saw with Robert Woods. Now, John Mechie doesn't really play special teams. He's a guy that they like a lot. He's an early day 2 pick. How is Nick Caserio going to handle that situation? If it's clear, and maybe it's not, CJ Stroud has had a lot of the good things to say about him, but if it's clear that John Mechie or Kenyon Green are not going to be productive players on this football team, what does Nick Caserio do? Does he lean with guys that he's drafted, or does he decide to move on? Possibilities are endless, but this is really going to be the first time that we've seen Nick Caserio have to perhaps make tough decisions on guys that he's drafted. His track record's actually been pretty good. So that's decision number one. Here is decision number two. Decision number two, Christian Harris extension. Now he won't be eligible for this till after this season, after year 3. But if he shows the improvements that he showed last season, and DeMeco Ryans continues to take him under his wing, and we see Christian Harris improve, establish himself maybe as a little bit more of a leader, a little bit more of a playmaker, I think this is an extension that's going to be pretty easy for them to decide to do. And I could see this getting done relatively early, like right after the season, when he's eligible. I could see the Christian Harris extension most definitely happening to where it's not too tough of a decision. Now, decision 3 is tough, and I want y'all's opinion on this. Decision 3 is really, 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 really tough. And I don't know that there's anything that can happen this season to make this any easier from a front office point of view. And we've heard players talk about him. We've seen what it looks like when it goes right. But Derek Stingley, after this year, is going to be eligible for an extension. And Derek Stingley is a guy who's missed 14 games in 2 years in the NFL. He missed even more games than that his final 2 years at LSU. And he's played 20 games, 22 if you count playoffs, at the NFL level. Let's say Derek Stingley goes out there and it's more of the same. Let's say Derek Stingley misses around a handful of games, but he looks elite when he's out there. And let's say after this year, we're talking about him maybe missing a total of 20 games in 3 years, but playing well when he's out there. Again, he'll still have a year on his contract and another year if you want to pick up the extension. But how do you approach that if you're Nick Caserio? And let's say that the best case scenario happens and something that we haven't seen in 4 years. Derek Stingley goes out there, he balls the hell out, and he only misses 1 or 2 games, or he plays every game this season. How do you handle that if you're Nick Caserio? Because the cost of Derek Stingley is going to be high. Corner is one of those high-paying positions, assuming that he is going to be paid like an elite corner. But does 1 year of health, does that override 4 years of poor health? Or would you need to see it again? For me, if I'm Nick Caserio, I'm going to have to see back-to-back seasons before I pay you like an elite corner. Now, if they want to meet somewhere in the middle, then I could see that happening. But from a Texans point of view, and from perspective of how much you're going to have to pay Derek Stingley, and the fact that he's still going to be under contract for 1 or 2 years, how in the hell do you handle an elite season by Derek Stingley where he's fully healthy? Because I don't know that you can really just wash away what's been happening the last 4 years. Now, there is a trust in the organization, and there is a understanding that you think that Nick Caserio will do the right thing, but how do you handle that? Especially knowing what's coming the next year. Luis says, pay him after season 4. He's our best player, not named CJ. I mean, he's your most talented player, for sure. You can't let Derek Stingley walk. I agree with that 100%. The question is, how do you handle it? Now, for me, like if on the other hand, if Derek Stingley misses 6 games again or something like that, and he's not dumb, that would be 5 straight years of missing significant time if you're Derek Stingley. Maybe you get a very, very team-friendly deal for a guy that you just know is going to miss some time, but you know that when he's out there, he's going to be elite. Maybe it works both ways. Maybe Derek Stingley looks at it and says, man, you know what? I've had trouble staying on the field. I completely understand why they wouldn't want to make me the highest paid corner in the league, despite the fact when I'm on the field, I am that. We're 3 years into this thing, and I haven't been able to stay on the field, so we're gonna meet in the middle. And I'm gonna be paid very, very nicely, but we're gonna meet somewhere in the middle. That maybe that's what happens. I could see something like that playing out. But I don't see a scenario where Derek Stingley plays his way into you comfortably feeling like you can make him the highest paid corner in the league. I just don't know that you can ignore 4 years before one. Who knows? Luckily, I'm not the one that has to make that decision. That's going to have to be D'Amico and Caserio. Decision 4, and this is the year after Derek Stingley, a Will Anderson extension. The Will Anderson extension is going to be a no-brainer. It's just going to be a matter of what type of player does Will Anderson play his way into. I could easily see Will Anderson playing his way into justifying being one of the higher paid edge guys in the league. But the decision is going to be interesting. Now, it will be interesting to see if they do Will Anderson and CJ Stroud the same time, because those are going to be aligned. But it's just a matter of how much with Will Anderson, not if it will happen. Now, I do want to talk about some positional chess that I think is actually brilliant when it comes to something Nick Caserio has done. And I'll do that in a second. Be sure to subscribe, like, right along. I'm looking at the comments. We will get to those for sure. But yeah, they're going to get the 5th-year option slapped on them, but they're still probably going to get extensions as well. I mean, I think that's a foregone conclusion as well. So decision 4 is going to be the Will Anderson extension. Decision 5, the CJ Stroud extension. Does that get done after year 3? I would anticipate the answer to that being yes. He's a Mulligetta guy. He's a guy that's going to validate. Maybe they want to get out in front of it, but I would anticipate that getting done 2 years from now. And then everything else can adjust accordingly. Going to some of the comments on the previous statements from some of y'all. I love Mechie. I'm rooting for him, but I just don't see him on the roster. Looking forward to the future. Yeah, I know that he's popular with the guys. I know he's easy to like. Interviewed him a couple of times, like him. Just where does he fit in? I don't know that they feel comfortable cutting Robert Woods and just saying, John Mechie, go in there and fill that void. Maybe there's a significant improvement. Maybe there's some chemistry with CJ, but you look at the top 5 guys and then you look at what else they've brought in. What does John Mechie contribute outside of being a receiver? I could easily see a emotional, passionate farewell for John Mechie. He's gonna have to look really, really good in camp to validate being around. Justin Pearson says, not going to lie, I understand it sucks to waste a pick, but I feel like it shouldn't be that hard of a decision. There's a lot of first-round busts and late-round gems if we cut them, and goodbye, good luck. And I agree. And I think they've done a good job of developing and bringing in guys. I think Kenyon Green's actually in for a little more of a battle than we think. I think the interior of the offensive line, the depth there is significantly underrated between Juice Scruggs, Patterson, Kendrick Green, some of these other guys. I think it's an underrated area of competition. I don't think it's just going to be easy for Kenyon Green to go in there and earn his spot. If he does, that'd be great. Hard to see Kenyon Green get cut with lack of O-line depth. I disagree with you on the interior O-line depth. I actually think it's pretty underrated. Justin Pearson, it's the same thing I tell my Giants friends with Daniel Jones. That man isn't going to win you a bowl. Replace him. It's nice to be able to say that, right? Not saying Green is that guy, but it's clear he's not that guy. Shouldn't be a hard decision. Rich says, I think Bullock will help out much as a rookie as other things. He brings that deep cover guy we liked badly last year. We'll see. I mean, we'll see what it looks like at this level. We'll see how it goes. For sure. I mean, it's good problems to have. Ken says Titus Howard is way overrated. I mean, I mean, you're looking at a top 5 highest paid right tackle. So I don't know that I disagree with you there. When it comes to Titus, and at least he's not playing guard this year. We don't think. I want to touch on the positional chess moves of Nick Caserio, and I think this is interesting, and I think this is kind of like as we approach CJ Stroud's rookie deal, I think this is important, and I think it's encouraging to see when you actually lay it all out. And I talked about it a little bit today on Sports Radio 610 in the Loop 10 to 2. I don't know, like there's obviously it's a fluid situation, and it's a situation that can change from year to year depending on what the strengths of your football team are. Like in Philadelphia, they're paying Devontae Smith and AJ Brown, and they have no problem doing it. With the Texans right now, because of the situation, they're paying 2 tackles elite money. Now the rookie quarterback deal does kind of factor into that, but that's what they're doing. But I would imagine that in a ideal world, you probably don't want to have too much money dedicated to one position. And the Texans right now, they're kind of set up to where I don't know if it's on purpose. I would say it probably is, but they're doing a pretty good job of lining up current contracts with future contracts. And the example I'll use is on the edge. 2 years from now, we've talked about this. 2 years from now, Will Anderson's going to be eligible for an extension, right? I mean, he's going to probably get paid, and he's on the edge. Now, maybe 3 years is when he gets it, but who knows? But how long was Danielle Hunter's contract? 2 years. So you'll be able to decide then, do we really need Danielle? Is Will ready to carry the load? You drafted Fisher at tackle. We don't know when he's going to be ready, but most likely in 2 years from now, you have an out from Tunsil and you have an out from Howard. Tackles are expensive. You're going to have to pay CJ. So if Fisher's ready to go, 2 years, you're going to replace him. Tank Dell, after this season, he's going to have 2 years remaining on his rookie deal. Nico Collins, you just signed him for 3. Not really a lot more at wide receiver. The Texans have done a pretty good job, whether intentional or not, of playing kind of positional chess where when it comes to approaching CJ Stroud's rookie deal and taking advantage of situations, they really have done a good job of playing positional chess. Rich says, we just added Diggs and extended Nico, bruh. Yeah. And Nico Collins is on the final year of his rookie deal before that extension. They threw some money in there. Diggs is on a 1-year deal. So he's gone after this year. So that kind of adds to it, where you were willing to pay Diggs because you had Tank and Nico on rookie deals. You give Nico a little bit of a signing bonus because you have the extra money, but then Diggs goes off the books. It's just kind of how it's played out with the positional chess moves of Caserio. That kind of adds to the point. They turned Stephon Diggs' deal into a rookie deal or into a 1-year deal as Nico expired and as Tank Dell's rookie deal continued. Deshaun Watson. I know we don't like talking about him too much. I'm not sitting here and dwelling on anything, but I just kind of want to look at what it looks like when you handle a rookie contract with a quarterback the wrong way versus how the Texans have handled it early on in CJ's tenure and who they'll be paying as this rookie deal continues. 3 years to be eligible, 5 years for the rookie deal to expire, given the extension. With Deshaun Watson, let's look at the significant moves that were made when Deshaun Watson was on his rookie contract. The few years that he was there, 17, 18, 19, 20, and he was gone after that, never played again. And when you look at this and when you really lay this out, it's really kind of easy. I know we've had some fun with Deshaun. It's really kind of easy to understand why the hell he wanted to get the hell out of here. You made Nick Martin one of the highest paid centers in the NFL. You traded Dwayne Brown. You traded for Laramie Tunsil. You traded 2 firsts and a second for that. So you had no draft picks. You weren't bringing in guys like Tank Dell. You weren't drafting guys like you were last year. There were multiple years where you didn't even have a first-round pick. Hell, you were trading third-round picks for Gary and Conley and Duke Johnson. You gave Whitney Merciless a bad extension after he had one of the most team-friendly extensions in all of football. You paid Eric Murray like a starting safety. You paid Randall Cobb like he was one of the best slots in the NFL when the Cowboys weren't even going to give him a $6 million deal or whatever the hell it was. You traded DeAndre Hopkins. You brought in David Johnson, took on his entire contract, and you just completely gutted your roster. Like you didn't make one big splash at all with the whole time that Deshaun Watson was on his rookie deal. Look at what they've done with CJ. You drafted Will Anderson. You've drafted Tank Dell. You've signed Danielle Hunter. You traded for Stephon Diggs. You locked up Nico Collins. Didn't let him walk. And you're already off to a pretty good start when it comes to playing things that way and taking advantage of the rookie contract. I think that's an encouraging thing for sure. I think it's really, really an incredible thing to do. No doubt. Yeah, Tunsil was the splash, and I still think that was a bad trade. I mean, I don't think – I mean, if you just look at what Trent Williams went for, the same and you traded Clowney too, which I think you could have used him on that 2019 squad. Yeah, you traded 2 1s and a 2. That's too much. That's kind of asinine, especially when you look at what Trent Williams was on the market and he went for. Yeah, you signed Mixon as well. So you signed Mixon. What did you trade, a 7th for him or a 6th because he was going to get released? You traded a 3rd for Duke Johnson. You traded DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson in a 2nd. It's crazy, for sure. And I think, fortunately for the Texans, everything worked out for them. And all of these conversations that we're having and all of these possibilities are made possible because Deshaun Watson wanted out. And in a way, you can say the incompetence played out to where you were able to get to this situation as well. But, yeah, it's pretty insane when you look at the right and the wrong way to handle a rookie deal. Appreciate everyone for coming through. The lives, like during the deadish part, they're usually about 25 minutes. Put out videos every once in a while, 10. In season, it's a video a day. It's a 1 hour a day. Tomorrow they're going to be on the field, so we'll probably be back up to 1 hour. But I appreciate everyone for coming through. Listen to In the Loop tomorrow, Sports Radio 610. Got you covered. Going to be fun. I actually got to go up to NRG. We have to get pictures taken for the new credentials. But always remember, give me your take in there. And remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Thank God for Casario D'Amico and CJ Stroud.
Yeah, it's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time. Can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top two and we not two.